The shed stood alone at the far end of the land, away from houses and roads. Its wood was gray and cracked from years of sun and rain. The roof was made of old metal sheets, bent and rusted. Grass had grown tall around it, and vines climbed its walls as if nature was slowly pulling it back into the ground. No one in the nearby town cared about the shed anymore. Children were told not to go near it. Adults passed by without looking. It had become part of the background, something that existed but had no meaning. That changed on a quiet Monday morning. A work truck stopped near the shed. 4 workers stepped out. Sam was the team leader, a man in his 40s with calm eyes and slow movements. He believed in doing work carefully. Leo was the youngest, always curious and full of questions. Ben was strong and cheerful, using humor to pass the time. Mike was quiet and focused, handling tools with skill. They were hired to clear the land. The shed was the first thing to be removed. Sam looked at the structure for a moment. "Old place," he said. "Let's finish it today." Ben grabbed a crowbar and walked toward the wall. "This thing will fall apart easily." The first wooden board came off with a sharp sound. Dust rose into the air. The smell of old wood spread around them. Leo coughed and waved his hand. "This place smells like it hasn't been opened in years," he said. Mike nodded. "Maybe longer." They kept working. Board after board was removed. Some pieces broke in their hands. Others resisted, held together by old nails that refused to let go. As the walls opened up, the inside of the shed became clear. It was empty. No tools. No boxes. No signs of recent use. Just shadows and silence. Leo stepped inside. "It feels colder here," he said. Ben laughed. "You imagine things too much." Leo was about to reply when his foot hit something hard. He looked down. The floor was made of thick wooden panels. They were darker than the walls and looked stronger. "That's strange," Leo said. "Why is the floor so solid when everything else is weak?" Sam stepped inside and knelt down. He pressed his hand against the floor. It felt firm, but when he knocked on it, the sound echoed in a strange way. Hollow. Sam straightened up. "Mike, bring the tool." Mike walked over and used a metal bar to lift one corner of a floor panel. It did not come off easily. Whoever built it had secured it carefully. As the panel lifted, a rush of cold air rose from below. It carried a damp smell that did not belong in an open shed. Ben stopped smiling. "That's not normal." The panel came free. Under it was not dirt or stone. It was a dark opening, a hole that went straight down. The workers stood still. No one spoke. Even the birds nearby seemed quiet. Leo turned on his light and pointed it into the opening. The beam did not reach the bottom. The darkness swallowed it. "How deep is that?" Leo whispered. Sam shook his head. "I don't know." Mike leaned closer but stayed back. "This was built on purpose." Ben crossed his arms. "Who builds something like this and hides it under a shed?" No one had an answer. Sam stepped away from the opening. His face was serious now. "We stop work for a moment." Leo looked at him. "Should we tell someone?" Sam thought carefully. "First, we understand what we are dealing with." They tied a rope to a heavy beam and slowly lowered it into the hole. The rope kept going down. 10 feet. 20. 30. It finally stopped moving. "That's deep," Mike said. The hole had wooden supports along the sides. Old but strong. Someone had spent time and effort building this underground space. Leo felt a mix of fear and excitement. "This is not just a hole," he said. "It's something bigger." Sam nodded. "And it's been hidden for a long time." They stood there, staring into the darkness. Each of them felt the same thing. This discovery was not small. It was not normal. Ben broke the silence. "What if someone does not want this found?" Sam looked at him. That thought crossed my mind too. The wind picked up, making the loose metal on the roof rattle. The sound echoed inside the shed, making it feel alive. Sam took a deep breath. We document everything. No one goes down yet. Leo looked disappointed but understood. All right. As they stepped outside the shed, Sam looked back one last time. The opening in the floor looked like an eye staring upward. The shed that no one cared about was hiding something underground. Something waiting. And this was only the beginning. The sun climbed higher in the sky, but the shed remained cold and quiet. Sam stood outside for a long moment, listening to the wind pass through the broken boards. The hole under the floor stayed on his mind. It felt like the land itself was hiding a secret. Sam made a decision. We go down, he said. Slow and careful. Ben looked at him in surprise. You sure about that? Sam nodded. We cannot leave this like it is. If it is unsafe, we need to know. Mike checked the rope again, pulling it tight and testing the knot. Leo stood nearby, holding the light, his face serious but curious. I will go first, Sam said. They tied the rope around Sam's waist and secured the other end to a strong beam outside the shed. Sam lowered himself into the opening slowly. The wooden walls of the tunnel were close on both sides. The air grew colder as he went down. The smell changed too. It was damp and heavy, like a place that had not been opened in years. Sam's boots touched solid ground. I'm down, he called. Leo leaned over the opening. What do you see? Sam pointed his light around. The space below was larger than expected. It was not just a hole. It was a room. The walls were lined with wooden beams. The floor was flat and dry. Dust covered everything, but nothing looked broken. It's a room, Sam said. A big one. Mike went next, then Ben, then Leo. When they were all down, Sam untied the rope and stood still. The light from their lamps revealed more details. There were shelves built into the walls. Some were empty. Others held old metal boxes and sealed containers. Everything was neat, placed with care. Ben rubbed his arms. Someone wanted this hidden. Leo walked slowly, shining his light over the walls. Why hide a room like this under a shed? Mike knelt near one of the boxes. These are old, but not weak. Sam raised his hand. No opening anything yet. They explored the room carefully. In one corner, they found a small wooden table. On it lay a notebook, thick with dust. Sam picked it up gently. The pages were yellow, but the writing was clear. Leo leaned closer. What does it say? Sam read out loud. Supplies. Records. Keep sealed. Ben frowned. Records of what? Sam did not answer. He turned a few pages. The writing spoke of storage, protection, and preparation. It did not explain everything, but one thing was clear. This place was built with purpose. Leo noticed a narrow passage leading away from the room. There's more. The passage was low and tight. They had to bend slightly to walk through it. The air felt even colder here. The passage led to another space. This one was different. Metal shelves lined the walls. On them were jars, tools, and objects wrapped in cloth. A soft hum filled the air, barely noticeable. Mike stopped walking. Do you hear that? They all listened. The sound was steady and quiet. Sam followed the sound and found a small machine mounted on the wall. It looked old but well built. A small light on it still glowed faintly. It's still working, Leo said in disbelief. Ben shook his head. After all this time, Sam examined it closely. This machine was meant to last. They realized then that whoever built this place planned for the long term. This was not a quick project. It was a careful one. Leo felt a chill. What if this place was never meant to be found? Sam closed the notebook and held it firmly. But it was found. They returned to the first room and sat quietly for a moment. Each man thought about the same question. Who built this place, and why? Sam broke the silence. We report this. Ben nodded. This is bigger than us. Mike agreed. People need to know. Leo looked back at the passage one last time. It feels like the place is watching us. Sam placed the notebook inside his bag. We leave everything as it is. They climbed back up one by one. When Sam emerged from the opening, the sunlight felt strange, almost unreal. Outside, the world looked the same. Birds flew overhead. The wind moved the grass. But nothing felt normal anymore. Sam covered the opening with the floor panel again. No one comes back here alone. They packed their tools and locked the shed as best as they could. Before leaving, Sam turned around and looked at the old structure. The shed was no longer just an old building. It was a cover. Something important had been hidden beneath it. And now that secret was moving toward the surface. The next morning, the land around the shed felt different. The sky was clear, but the air carried a strange tension. Sam arrived early and stood near the fence, waiting. He had barely slept. The images of the underground rooms kept returning to his mind. Soon, a few official vehicles arrived. They parked near the field, their tires pressing down the grass. Several people stepped out. They were not loud or rushed. Their calm behavior made the moment feel serious. Sam walked forward with a notebook in his hand. He explained everything from the hollow floor to the hidden rooms below. The officials listened closely, asking simple but careful questions. One of them, a man named David, nodded slowly. You did the right thing by stopping work. They placed safety markers around the shed. No one was allowed to enter without permission. The workers stood behind the markers, watching quietly. After the area was secured, a small group prepared to enter the shed. Sam was asked to guide them. Inside, the shed looked smaller than before. The loose boards and open walls let light pour in. Still, the floor looked solid, hiding the secret beneath. Sam pointed to the exact panel. The team lifted it carefully. The dark opening returned, unchanged. Lights were lowered first. Then the group followed. The underground rooms were examined slowly. Every shelf, every box, every tool was noted. Nothing was moved without reason. David stood in the first room, reading from the notebook. This place was built decades ago. Sam watched closely. Do you know why? David looked thoughtful. Not yet. But this was not a random project. In the second room, the quiet hum of the machine caught everyone's attention. One of the experts examined it and shook his head in disbelief. This is advanced for its time, he said. And it is still running. Leo stood near Sam, whispering. So it really was important. Sam nodded. More than we thought. As the examination continued, more details came to light. Hidden markings on the walls. Symbols carved into the wood. Numbers written carefully on the shelves. Everything pointed to planning and patience. Above ground, word began to spread. People from the nearby town gathered at a distance. They whispered among themselves, curious and uneasy. An older man named Ron stood near the fence. He stared at the shed with wide eyes. I remember this place, he said quietly. A reporter turned toward him. What do you remember? Ron took a deep breath. Years ago, trucks came here at night. No one asked questions back then. The crowd grew silent. Back underground, Sam listened as David spoke with his team. This may have been a storage site. Or a preparation site. For what? Sam asked. David did not answer right away. That is what we are trying to understand. Hours passed. When the team finally returned above ground, their faces showed concern mixed with respect. David addressed the workers. This site will remain closed. The land use plan will change. Ben crossed his arms. So the shed stays. David nodded. For now. Leo felt both relief and disappointment. Part of him wanted to know everything right away. Another part felt glad they were not alone anymore. That evening, Sam walked back to his truck. He stopped and looked at the shed one more time. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the land. He realized something important. The shed was not forgotten. It had been waiting for the right moment to be found. And now that it was uncovered, the past was reaching into the present. The story was far from over. Days passed, but the land around the shed never felt quiet again. Fences surrounded the area now, and warning signs stood where tall grass once grew. People from the town came every day, stopping at a distance, trying to understand why this forgotten place mattered so much. Sam returned often, though he was no longer working there. He felt connected to the shed, like it had chosen him to uncover its secret. Each visit brought new thoughts and questions. One afternoon, David asked Sam to come speak with him. "We have learned more," David said calmly. They stood near the fence as workers moved carefully inside the shed. The underground space was built during a time when people feared losing control over basic needs, David continued. Food, tools, records, everything needed to survive difficult years. Sam listened closely. "This was not meant for one person," David said. "It was meant for many." Sam looked toward the shed. "So it was a shelter?" "Yes," David replied. "But more than that. It was a promise." David explained that the notebook contained careful records of supplies and plans. The machine underground was designed to keep air clean and stable. Every detail showed preparation for a future that never arrived. "They believed hard times were coming," David said. "They prepared in silence." Sam thought about the care taken in building the place. Why hide it under a shed? David smiled slightly. Because ordinary things attract less attention. Meanwhile, the town was changing. Conversations shifted from daily routines to memories and theories. Older residents began sharing stories they had never spoken aloud. Ron, the old man from before, sat outside the town store one morning. Leo joined him. "I remember my father talking about this land," Ron said. "He said some people believed in planning far ahead. They trusted preparation more than luck." Leo nodded. "But no one used it." Ron sighed. "Sometimes plans are meant to protect hope, not fear." Back at the site, experts continued their work. They found letters sealed in metal containers. Each one spoke about responsibility, care for others, and patience. There was no anger in the words. Only concern. Sam read one of the letters quietly. It spoke of future generations and the duty to keep knowledge safe. "This place was built with good intent," Sam said. David agreed. "Yes. That is why we must treat it with respect." As news spread beyond the town, more attention arrived. Cameras, questions, and visitors appeared. But the officials kept details limited. They wanted time to understand everything fully. One evening, Sam stood alone near the fence as the sun dipped low. The shed cast a long shadow across the land. It no longer looked weak or forgotten. It looked strong. Leo approached him. "Do you think they will open it to the public?" Sam thought for a moment. "Maybe. But some places are not meant to be rushed." Leo nodded. "It feels like a message from the past." "That's exactly what it is," Sam said. "A reminder." The town council held a meeting soon after. People filled the hall, eager to hear the truth. David spoke clearly and calmly, explaining the purpose of the underground site. "This was built to protect life and knowledge," he said. "It shows care, not fear." The room grew quiet. One woman stood up. "So what happens now?" David answered. "Now we learn from it." The council decided the shed and underground space would be preserved. Not as a secret, but as a lesson. Sam felt a deep sense of closure, but also a new beginning. The shed had changed him. It showed him how quiet actions could shape the future. As he walked home that night, he realized something important. The real discovery was not what was found underground. It was the understanding of why it was built. And that understanding was now shared. Months passed, and the land no longer felt empty. Where the old shed once stood alone, there was now care and purpose. The structure itself remained, but it was repaired and strengthened. The broken boards were fixed. The roof no longer rattled in the wind. A small path led visitors toward it, guiding them with quiet respect. Sam visited on a clear morning. The grass was trimmed, and signs explained the history of the place in simple words. He stopped near the entrance and looked at the shed. It still looked ordinary, and that made him smile. Ordinary things, he had learned, often carry the deepest meaning. Leo joined him soon after. He had changed too. He spoke less and observed more. The discovery had made him think about time in a new way. People come here every day now, Leo said. Some just stand and read. Others stay quiet. Sam nodded. That means it matters. Inside the shed, the floor panel was now sealed with care, but a safe entrance allowed guided visits below. The underground rooms were clean and protected. Lights were soft, not bright. Nothing was rushed. Visitors moved slowly, reading the letters displayed behind glass. They learned about planning, patience, and thinking beyond oneself. A guide spoke calmly to a small group. This place was built for people who might never be met. That is the power of it. Sam listened from a distance. The town changed as well. People spoke more openly with each other. Neighbors shared tools, food, and stories. The discovery had reminded them that preparation was not only about objects. It was about trust. Ron visited one afternoon, walking carefully down the path. He stopped near Sam. "I never thought I would see this place again," Ron said. Sam smiled. "It waited a long time." Ron looked thoughtful. "Maybe it waited for the right people." Nearby, children listened to a teacher explain why the site was important. They asked simple questions. Why did they hide it? Why did they plan so far ahead? Why did no one use it? The teacher answered honestly. Not every plan is meant to be used. Some are meant to teach. Sam felt a quiet pride. He had only come to do a job. He had not expected to become part of something lasting. Later that day, David met Sam near the fence. "We are turning this place into a learning site," David said. "Not a display of fear, but of care." Sam nodded. "That feels right." David continued, "We want people to understand that strong futures are built quietly." As the sun lowered, the land grew calm. Shadows stretched across the grass, gentle and long. The shed stood firm, no longer forgotten. Sam took one last walk around the area. He remembered the first day, the dust, the hollow sound under his boots. He remembered the moment they looked into the darkness. That darkness had not been empty. It had been full of intention. Before leaving, Sam placed his hand on the shed wall. The wood felt warm from the sun. "This place did its job," he said softly. Leo watched from a few steps away. "And so did you." Sam shook his head. "We all did." As evening came, lights inside the shed glowed softly. The underground rooms rested again, not hidden, but honored. The land had kept its secret until the right moment. And when it was ready, it shared it with everyone. Not as a shock, but as a reminder that even the quietest places can hold lessons strong enough to shape the future.